This is the fourth webinar of Hope for Home training for family coaches. Hope for Home is the family component of Helping Offenders Prosper Through Employment, a mentoring program for incarcerated youth. This video will describe the nuts and bolts of Hope for Home, in particular how the family coaches help the youth's caregivers build knowledge and skills to support the youth's reentry most effectively. After completing this webinar, you will be able to prepare for and conduct the family psychoeducation sessions. You will also be able to describe the goals of each family psychoeducation session, as well as the knowledge and skills the adult caregiver will build in each session. Hope for Home has three components. The assessment component was described in webinar 1 and 2. The second component is family psychoeducation. Family psychoeducation aims to increase the adult caregiver's understanding of adolescents' needs and behaviors. It also aims to strengthen their skills for managing adult-teen interactions. The third component, family coaching, will be described in webinar 5. Now let's talk about the family psychoeducation component. Hope for Home includes 4 psychoeducation sessions. Each session focuses on the specific knowledge and skills as shown in this table. For example, in session 1, the adult caregiver learns about the teenage brain and uses their new understanding of the teenage brain to improve how they communicate with the youth. During the session, they also practice effective communication skills with a family coach. To accomplish the goals of the family psychoeducation sessions, the family coach uses the family psychoeducation handouts that can be found in the appendices of their Hope for Home manual from page 26 to page 40. For example, in session 1, the family coach gives the youth's caregiver a copy of the handout called The Adolescent Brain that can be found on page 28, and a copy of the handout called Talking with Teens on page 31. The family coach and the adult caregiver discuss the information and complete the exercises that are on the handouts. Likewise, in session 2, the family coach gives the adult caregiver the handouts called Teens' Identity and Relationships, Managing Conflict with Teens, and Resolving Conflict with Teens on page 33, 34, and 37 of the manual. They discuss the importance of identity and peer relationships in adolescence, and how to build conflict management skills through exercises and role plays. Session 3 focuses on career planning, how to help teens make decisions, set goals, and make career choices. And Session 4 provides the opportunity to review what was learned in Session 1 through 3. The goal is to consolidate the knowledge gained from the first 3 meetings, to use the skills in role play, and to discuss how the adult caregiver and youth will manage future challenges. In addition, at the end of Session 4, the family coach informs the adult caregiver that both of them will meet with the youth and the youth's counselor to plan for re-entry when the youth is ready to go home. The goals of the psychoeducation sessions are to increase caregivers' understanding of typical adolescent behaviors and challenges, in order to promote age-appropriate expectations, and to increase responsiveness to adolescents' needs. Responsiveness depends on caregivers' ability to change their interactions with youth in ways that promote positive growth and prevent negativity and ruptures in the caregiver-youth relationship. Positivity is the foundation for influence in adult-teen relationships. The more positive the relationship between the caregiver and the youth, the more influence the caregiver has in the relationship. As the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome, meaning there are different ways to get to the same outcomes, and the challenge is to define the method that works best with the youth. For example, in the first psychoeducation session, Tyron realizes that lecturing is his preferred way of communicating his worry. However, when Tyron lectures Nick, Nick rolls his eyes and ignores Tyron. Lecturing Nick is not an effective way to get him to come home earlier or stop hanging out with the wrong crowd. In family psychoeducation, the family coach and Tyron use the information they discuss to identify the best way to increase positivity in the adult-youth relationship, to help Tyron and Nick work together, and to help Nick engage in desirable behaviors. In the family psychoeducation sessions, the adult caregivers learn and practice skills that will increase their ability to support teens at home, school, or at work. The skills are effective communication, conflict management, problem solving, and decision making. The family psychoeducation handouts in the Hope for Home manual, page 28 to 40, describe what the skills are and how to use them. The family coach encourages the adult caregivers to use the skills and model desirable behaviors in their interactions with the youth before and after they return home. For example, when they visit the youth in the detention facility or on the phone. By using the skills, the adult caregivers show support and build positivity in the relationship. How does the family coach prepare for and conduct the family psychoeducation session? Preparation is key, and prior to each session, the family coach looks at the Hope for Home manual and review the session plan. Look at page 5 to 6 and page 27. They also look at the session handouts. At the beginning of each session, the family coach thanks the caregiver for coming and introduces the agenda. They may say, "Today we will learn about the teenage brain. We will also discuss how this knowledge helps understand how to talk with teens. We will have the time to use communication skills and apply the skills to possible scenarios that may occur in the future." After introducing the agenda, the family coach gives the caregiver time to read the information on the handout, then discuss the information with the caregiver. For example, they may invite the caregiver to think about the following questions. Let's take 5 minutes or so to read the first paragraph on the handout. What did you learn about the teenage brain that you did not know or that you found interesting? What was your reaction to the information? What was surprising about the information? How important is this information? How could you use this information when you interact with your teen? Because it is more effective to discuss the information in chunks rather than all at once, the family coach may repeat those steps, read and discuss for each item on the handout. Lastly, the family coach invites the caregiver to do the exercises on the handout. For example, they may invite the caregivers to read, think, or write their answer, and then share their thoughts with the family coach and other caregivers. In a group setting, the caregivers are encouraged to provide feedback that is supportive. They are also encouraged to offer alternative perspectives without evaluating each other. The family coach is responsible for creating conditions and managing group interactions that foster acceptance and communicate respect and support. The family coach shows how to use the skills and provides opportunities for practicing the skills. It is important to remember that the directors of Hope are there to help you. You will have regular contact with the directors to discuss how to use the Hope for Home manual and handouts, and how to plan the family psychoeducation sessions. You will talk about your success with the adult caregivers as well as the challenges you may experience and how to address them. Also remember that psychoeducation is interactive and dynamic. You will have conversations with the adult caregivers, not lectures. You will highlight key points, explain or clarify information, and encourage the caregivers to ask questions. While the caregiver and you talk about the information on the handout, you will listen and acknowledge what the caregiver says about their experience. You may say, "I hear how frustrated you get when Nick ignores you." That's when you start raising your voice at him and it gets real nasty between the two of you. It is important that you link the conversation to the knowledge and skill the caregiver is learning. You may say, Tyron, I wonder how you will use what you learned today when Nick ignores you. When more than one caregiver participate in family psychoeducation, it is important to create a climate of respect and to encourage positive, non-judgmental interactions between caregivers. Stop negativity when it occurs and remind the group that Hope for Home is a space where individuals can find support to address difficult situations. where they can share their experience without fear of judgment or criticism. When caregivers share their experience with one another, they realize they are not alone in this. They struggle with the same challenges. They also have the opportunity to learn from each other. The family coach can help to promote interpersonal learning by encouraging the caregivers to share their thoughts. They may say, "What do you think about what Sean just said? What would you do if you were in the same situation?" At the end of each psychoeducation session, remember to summarize what the caregiver learned, both knowledge and skills. Also encourage the caregivers to use the skills they learned and practice in the session when they visit the youth or when they interact with the youth on the phone. Give the caregivers an opportunity to share their final thoughts. What was their experience of the session? What did they like? What did they find difficult? What would they try to do differently? Then conclude by giving information about the topic and objectives of the next psychoeducation sessions. You have now completed Webinar 4 in the Hope for Home Family Coach Training. The Hope for Home consultant is available to answer your questions at the email address you received with the Hope for Home manual. You are now ready to watch the 5th webinar of this series. The 5th webinar will describe the third component of Hope for Home, family coaching.